Okay, today we're here with Darren Mullins in South Korea. Darren's an accomplished singer-songwriter, and we're here to talk to him today about his music. We'll start out with just, first of all, how long have you been playing music, and how long have you been playing and performing in clubs and at shows?
Well, that's a great question to get started on. I actually started taking guitar lessons in November of 1998, and of course at the time I didn't know a thing about the guitar, so I had to wait a couple years before I could start performing any place. And my first show was actually in 1991 in February at the Huntington Mall in Barbersville, West Virginia.
Good. Barbersville, West Virginia, okay. Now, you have a very unique style among other musicians. You play a lot of old rock and roll and Buddy Holly and rockabilly and old Irish music. How did you come into that style that's very unique and very different?
Well, I've studied the early rock and roll since birth almost. My dad had a collection of records. He listened to a lot of country music, but he had some records by Carl Perkins and Buddy Holly and Chuck Berry and some of the others that were famous on the rock and roll scene back in the 1950s. So I had studied that music. I had been exposed to it. And when I later picked up the guitar, I knew that I wanted to play that type of music. The Irish music came about. My dad bought an old 8-track cassette of an Irish Rovers album, and the music was a lot of fun, so I started adding that music to my show as well.
Good. Now, you've also had some success on the radio in Europe and in Australia. Some of your songs have made it on Australian and European charts. Tell us about that. Tell us what songs are on the radio.
Well, I've had 3 songs to make the top 40 at radio, and all 3 songs have been songs that other people have recorded. The first song that made it at radio for me was called Hiring Fair. It's a traditional Irish song, and I found it on an Irish Rovers album. It's a very old song. They didn't write it, but it's one of these public domain songs. And it made it to number 17 on the International Country Music Chart, which monitors airplay in Australia and Europe. And it also made it to number 17 in Ireland. My second song to chart for me at radio was We Belong Together. That song was an old R&B song. Richie Valens did a cover version in 1958. And my recording of it, I made it to number 3 in Italy and made it to number 38 in Ireland. And it was number 97 all across Europe. So I made the Hot 100 there. And then my most recent song was the song Buddy Holly launched his professional recording career with. It's called Blue Days, Black Nights, and it made it to number 11 for me on the International Country Music Chart.
Good. Now, you're an independent artist. You're not signed to a major label. So how does an independent artist manage to get not only on the radio, but on the radio internationally, like in Australia and in Europe?
Well, it's a good question, and it's actually pretty easy for an independent artist to get on the radio. For me, it started when a DJ in Australia, he's based out of Sydney, he's originally from Ireland. He found me on MySpace and told me to send him a CD and he would play it. So after I sent him the initial CD, he played it on his radio show, which was broadcast coast to coast in Australia. And then from there, I found other DJs' addresses and I would send it to them. Then I got a real boost when a former professor of mine from college told me how I could get songs played. He gave me a list of websites that had DJs playlists, and so I started sending CDs off. And one very cheap way, if you're an independent artist, if you want to get your songs played, is to just find a DJ, and you don't even have to send a CD anymore. You can do something as simple as send an MP3 from your computer. It's free, it doesn't cost anything, and the DJ gets it the same day.
Good. Okay. And speaking of the internet, you also have your music out there on the internet. You said you're on MySpace, and there's some other resources you use on the internet. What would you recommend for an independent artist, a musician specifically, to use the internet to promote their music?
Well, I recommend getting a MySpace page because that's very popular for musicians. Facebook is starting to have music websites, so that would be another good one to get. Soundclick.com is absolutely fantastic. You'll get your music on the internet music chart there. They monitor plays on the internet, and it's real easy. They pretty much any song that gets put on there does chart, but in order to get something into like the top 5 or get something to number 1, a lot of people have to listen to it. But MySpace and especially SoundClick are excellent resources, and best of all, they're free. So all you have to do is take time to set up an account with these websites and build your web page. It doesn't take that long, and it's a great promotional tool.
Good. And speaking of promotion, what's your MySpace and SoundClick handle?
MySpace.com/Darren Mullins, and SoundClick is soundclick.com/Darren Mullins. And let me tell you, SoundClick and MySpace both have led to radio airplay for me. So songs that I haven't even been promoting and DJs I never contacted have downloaded my songs from MySpace and SoundClick and have given me airplay. So if you're a musician and you're looking for a way to get your music out there, I recommend both websites. It's free, and sometimes you don't even have to contact the DJs. They'll come to you.
Good. Okay. And you also have your album for sale on your SoundClick website, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And what's the name of that album?
I actually have 2 albums. I have one that I released last year called an Irish Rock and Roll Collection, which is basically traditional Irish songs done in a country rock style. And I've got a new CD out called We Belong Together, which features early rock and roll songs.
Good. Okay. Early rock and roll songs covered by you, of course.
Right.
Okay. And any last things to say?
Well, I wish everyone the best with their career. If you are a musician, just like I said, get yourself a MySpace page and a SoundClick page. It will do wonders for you, and it's free promotion.
Okay, thanks a lot, Darren. Thanks for your time. And again, this is Darren Mullins out of Suwon, South Korea.